Welcome
to Probably Aliens. I'm Agent J.
I'm Agent T.
Today we'll be discussing the Men in Black.
Men in Black.
Not to
Here
be.
come the Men in Black.
Yep. Yes, baby. That's it. But the episode 4. We're gonna be going to talk about the Men in Black, which is actually a really cool. It's actually some really crazy stuff, some shady stuff.
Shady stuff, for real.
Yeah.
Yep.
There were some slim shadies out there with their pale skin and their shadiness.
Ruby red lips.
Yeah, ruby red lips. First, before we start, I want to say thank you guys so much for the overwhelming support. We reached 500 streams on Spotify. I don't know if that just accounts for Spotify or maybe it's the whole thing, but we're very thankful for that. We're only 3 episodes in. Well, this is the 4th, and we're doing pretty good, so we really appreciate that.
Yep. Thank you all.
Yeah. Do you have any This Week in Space?
Oh, shit. I knew I forgot something.
I don't have any.
No, I don't. I don't.
I have none.
It
took me too much research, and I had to find the glasses, and it was just too much for me.
Had to get the costumes for the research.
Yeah. So there's probably some space stuff going on.
Probably.
Just look up in the sky.
How about we let our viewers chime in and give us some interesting space news, and we'll read on the next one.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so you can follow us on. Is this just a plug? Are we plugging right now? We're gonna plug the Facebook and the Twitter like 3 minutes into the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, if people first time listening, better time.
There you go. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Probably Aliens. If you just
Twitter
search Probably
is
Aliens, yeah, you'll find it.
Yeah, Twitter is Podcast Aliens.
Yep. And then Facebook's just Probably Aliens Podcast. Send us your news, your space news, or your This Week in Science, and we will talk about it next time. We don't have
anything
right
for that matter.
Yeah, if you have like any kind of like encounters or any stories or anything that's happened to you personally or something that someone you know, just let us know, and we would love to hear it. We would possibly read it.
If you hate our faces or our podcast, just let us know.
If you hate anything that we do, we'd love to hear it. Just send it to us. Tell us how much you hate us, what you hate about us, and we will
hate mail.
Yeah, we'll read it. Read it on the podcast.
We gotta engage with
even if it's
the audience.
Bad engagement.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get right into Men in Black. First of all, Trey, let's describe who or what is the Men in Black.
The Men in Black. Now, this is actual encounters or eyewitness reports, not comparable to the Sony Picture, Columbia Pictures movies with Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones, which is actually based. No, it's not the movie. No.
That's all I did was watch the movie. Oh.
No, these are actually based, So let me a little bit of backstory for you. So there is a comic book, actually dubbed Men in Black by Lowell Cunningham was his name. He sent it in to I forgot the comic book company, but then that comic book company got bought out by Malibu Comics, and then Malibu Comics got bought out by Marvel. So in instance, Men in Black are a part of the Marvel universe, canon, not canon. Do your own research on that one. But these comics actually came from eyewitness accounts, people who actually had encounters with the notorious Men in Black. Okay. And Men in Black, basically, I didn't even answer your question. I apologize. But so basically, if you haven't seen the movie, then all they do is go to any accounts to stop, say, extraterrestrial activity or sightings or any involvement with an alien race, or in the comics, paranormal, like even werewolves, vampires, anything that has to do with non-humans, they are there.
Yeah, so the Men in Black are typically, the descriptions of them describe them as like men in black suits. They're usually pretty tall. They're pale skinned, pale complected, like us, and their mouth and nose is sometimes they say it's like kind of small, like got a small like mouth and a nose. A lot of them like there's some accounts where they say that they wear like lipstick or like their lips are extremely red or whatever. They tend to talk like kind of like a pre-spoken language, kind of like that they already know what they're about to say before they're going to say it.
Yeah, like monotone too. I've seen some
like,
accounts very
like
monotone,
very robotic voice. They're typically said to be federal agents, and that they're actually over the military. There's some instances of Men in Black being able to kind of outmaneuver military forces. So yeah, they're just creepy. And I guess we didn't even say about it. A lot of time, they show up typically whenever there's like an encounter. So you see a UFO. You said you've seen something. If you've had an abduction that you claim that you have, or you claim to have seen a UFO, typically they will show up very quickly to reprimand you. So.
Yep.
So okay, so let's get into some instances of the Men in Black. Do you have any with you, Trey?
I do. I got one account. This isn't the first account by any means, but it's probably one of the most known ones, I guess you could say, above the conspiracy theorists or ufologists, whatever you want to call us. It took place in 1976, and this is from infinityexplorers.com, this whole account of the Men in Black. So on a pleasant evening in September, the Men in Black visited Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a respected physician and UFO investigator. Back then, Dr. Hopkins was dealing with a strange UFO case on a nearby town of Norway, Maine. This case involved two workers who spotted a strange flying object and tried to approach it. As they reached close to the unidentified craft, they were engulfed by a blinding white light and they passed out. When both the workers came to their senses, they found themselves a mile further down the road and realized that they had been lying there for hours and could not recall anything that happened. Being a trained hypnotist, he examined one of the workers and was fascinated by accounts provided by the worker of the missing time. Hopkins felt that he was on the edge of breakthrough in understanding the phenomenon of alien abductions. So, from that eyewitness account, Dr. Hopkins, he started actually interviewing these men, and basically the Men in Black called up, and they say they were from another organization trying to figure out what happened, where the UFO was sighted. They basically wanted what Dr. Hopkins had. So he's like, hey, you want to discuss this in person? I'll be there shortly if you give me directions to your house. So Dr. Hopkins readily agreed. And then no more than when he hung up the phone, a man in black was walking up his steps.
Yeah,
and
like back then,
how did this
people
happen?
were, easily, like nowadays you wouldn't have people giving their address and stuff to people on the phone, but back then it was kind of just,
man.
It was more like seen as like, oh, you're just trying to help me. You're not trying to like do anything, I guess.
Right. Very trustworthy is. So compared to now, you got, I don't know, Ring cameras, just cameras in general everywhere.
Yeah. Good way for the government to track you.
Yeah, definitely. While you track your Amazon package, but I mean, it just all accounts. I mean, there's really no privacy, and if there is, and it's very held tightly to your chest. Like you said, no one just gives out addresses anymore, or phone numbers or anything like that. Which is okay. I'm not deeming this bad or we need to change our ways, but compared, like you said, compared back then to 76, then you're just like, hey, who are you? You want to come over for a barbecue? Yeah, hell yeah, man.
A galactic barbecue?
Yeah, galactic barbecue.
There we go. Going back with the Hopkins encounter, it was actually said, because I looked into this too a little bit, that the man in black that showed up was in a black suit and a black tie. Very unusual facial appearances with no hair or eyebrows, and extremely
Eyelashes
pale.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, like oh no eyelashes either.
No eyelash, no hair whatsoever. Like
No hair
facial hair,
whatsoever.
eyebrows, eyelashes, nothing.
So like an albino mole rat. Just think of that.
Basically, yeah.
After the bizarre visitor began questioning him in the UFO case, the visitor got even stranger. It's said that whenever the Man in Black did show up, that Hopkins' dog was just going nuts, just
Really?
barking like crazy. The Man in Black informed Hopkins that there were 2 coins in Hopkins' pocket, which was correct. It's almost as like they kind of knew that he had coins in his pocket. This next part is actually kind of weird and creepy.
I already know what you're gonna say. Yep.
You want to say it?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. So basically, the Man in Black's like, I know you got 2 coins in your pocket, and he asked him to remove one. Hopkins, said, yeah, I'll remove, a shiny new penny out of my pocket. And he put it in the palm of his hand. The Men in Black told Hopkins to watch the coin closely.
Mm-hmm.
And after a few moments, the coin took on a silvery appearance, and then appeared to go out of focus. Then began to fade and eventually disappeared altogether.
Yep.
The Men in Black informed Hopkins that the coin would never be seen on this plane ever again.
Yep.
He then inquired as to whether Hopkins was familiar with the alleged UFO abductee, Barney Hill. Which the Betty and Barney Hill, if you know anything about that alien abduction, that is considered the grandfather of the abduction story. So this is like the first ever abduction story was the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. Hopkins didn't reply that he had heard of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction and that he knew of Barney Hill, but was under the impression that he had died in the not-too-distant past. The Men in Black informed Hopkins that was correct, that Barney didn't have a heart. This is in quotations. And that the Men in Black said, just like you no longer have a coin. So basically threatening Hopkins, saying, like, look, we can make things disappear. We can make you disappear.
Yep.
The Men in Black then gently suggested that Hopkins destroy any material that he had related to the UFO case. And then Hopkins, who was extremely shaken by the encounter, which makes total sense, I would be too.
Yeah.
Followed the advice of the man and burned all the files he had related to the case. While he had repeated phone troubles after the phone company said that his line had been tampered with. So that's kind of another weird situation. But after that day, he had never saw the man again, and he basically got rid of every evidence that he had.
Yep.
So like
very, very dark turn compared to the movie. Now we're just talking about the movie. It's lighthearted, it's comical, it's fucking hilarious. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. But taking a turn, just compared to real life and these real life events, these men will go to any measures to make sure that this information does not get out.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a scary thought coming from a 1997 movie to a real life account. They're like, we will make your heart disappear, bro. Like, shut your mouth.
Like, yeah, like they're very sinister. Like it's creepy, and it kind of makes me. We'll go into our theories at the end, but I have like a theory kind of why I think that these Men in Black can do these weird things, I guess.
So let's talk about the appearance, because every actual encounter story I've been able to find, they all have similar appearances. Pale skin, almost like plastic. They look abnormally like aliens, like no human features whatsoever. Ruby red lips in this one instance where this guy, Hopkins, he accounted for this guy had no facial hair, no eyelashes, no eyebrows. Basically, if you rack your brain a little bit, it's basically a suit somebody's wearing.
And it can even be implied that their skin is a suit as well. It almost feels like it's a generic person.
Yep.
Like Trey said, like no facial hair, no hair whatsoever. Almost just feels like you're just seeing a skin over top of a humanoid figure to an extent.
Yep.
They're always in suits. They're always kind of like taller and lanky. Some of them wear hats. It's just creepy. And then they always do. They're always very sinister and, like we said earlier, like a robotic voice, almost as if they're like reading like a plan or having like a planned conversation of what they're going to say before that they say it.
And that on this other instance, I really don't believe this part, but it was mentioned in the article that Dr. Hopkins then observed that the man's speech was starting to slow like a tape at half speed. The man staggered. Oh, I'm sorry. The man told him that he was running low on battery and must leave. Like, if this dude is in here threatening you with making a coin disappear and making your heart disappear, why would you get that information? Like, oh shit, I'm running low on battery. Like, I got to go charge it.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. If you were like an actual like Men in Black and you're really trying to like keep things hush hush, why would you tell somebody that like I'm running low on battery?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, up until that point, like everything that Hawkins had said, you would seem that these beings are very professional in what they do. Mm-hmm. And like we had even said, it almost felt like it was like a rehearsed conversation. Like, this is what I'm going to say. Like, that just seems like it's too much out there for me to believe that part.
Yeah, that part. I really don't believe that part. But in another instance, the same article, the man staggered out of the house like he was drunk towards a blue light. Hopkins assumed it might have been some kind of vehicle, but saw nothing, and the man in black disappeared. Then they found no tire marks, no tread marks, no recollection or evidence that a car was even there. So what was that bright blue light?
Makes you wonder, for sure.
It does. Well,
that's the thing.
The main point, going back to the penny or the coin or whatever it was, he said if you this penny or this coin does not exist on this plane anymore. That's one major word enough to set anybody on edge. Like, well, either a time traveler or
like where's that coin going?
We don't know.
It's got to be going somewhere. It's like he says no longer, like you said, like on this plane, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, what does that even mean?
It's a different plane. So time traveler, parallel universe, just a multi-universe in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird story. It's a weird story. It's just, and I think it's weird how that like his dog already kind of like was going nuts and stuff like that too. So it's just it's just a weird situation for me.
And then we did talk about this previously. Animals have that kind of sense when some danger is approaching. Mm-hmm. And his dog was already going ballistic, so that should have been a telltale sign. I mean, dogs, yes, they bark and growl and put up an intimidation display whenever a stranger comes by, but that's just dogs. But for this guy to actually, and this man Hopkins, he's a well-respected doctor in his community, like really well. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows his name, what he does. Everybody likes him. And so for this dude to get a phone call from another stranger and say, hey, I want to discuss what you have. But yeah, sure. Okay. And the minute he hangs up, his dog's going ballistic because this man's already at your front door. Now, how is that?
And he's like that respected and stuff. It almost makes you feel like he's reliable and he wouldn't just make up a story like this.
Yep. I mean, it's now I can definitely see some exaggeration, but that's in any traumatic experience, a car incident.
Plus, you said it was like 1976. Traumatic. You said.
Yep. 1976.
So it's been through the wire at that point. Like it's almost to the point where that it's so long ago that you can like start putting stuff or adding things to it. You know what I mean? Like the story could have been a little bit distorted from what it was.
Yeah,
back then.
Kind of muddy in the waters there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the Hopkins incident with the Men in Black. The very first one that I could find that goes all the way back to I believe it's actually before Roswell, or it might have been a little bit after Roswell.
I think it was in the 40s. Is what I found. If we're
Yeah,
talking about the same one.
the Maury Island incident. Is that what
Yep.
you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's it. That was in the
Okay.
40s. Yep.
It was actually June 27th of 1947. Harold Dahl was
Yep.
basically on a mission on the Puget Sound near the eastern shore of Washington's Maury Island, gathering logs when he saw 6 donut-shaped crafts hovering above a half a mile above his boat. Before long, one of them fell nearly 1,500 feet, followed by raining metallic debris, some of which actually hit Dahl's son, Charles, and just
Yep.
murdered his dog. Just
Yeah, it's smashed his dog.
Yeah, which
Yep.
is kind of sad. And it's actually said that he had, because he was kind of a fisherman to an extent, so they like bury the dog at sea. Just a little
Yep.
side note. I looked into that. And because I was thinking, what happened to the dog? And they just buried him at sea, which is, I guess they had put him in something and threw him in the water. Yeah, so Dahl was able to take some pictures of the aircraft with his camera, which he later showed to his supervisor, Fred Chrisman. If you know anything about Fred Chrisman, he's always, for some reason, this guy has, I don't know if he's a ufologist or what, but he's always kind of putting himself in these scenarios.
Yep.
So he's like a big UFO guy. Like, he knows his shit. And he just so happened to be a supervisor. He was skeptical at first, Chrisman was, but went back to the scene to look for himself and saw a strange aircraft with his own eyes. And that's kind of one of those things. It's, if you want to believe so bad, maybe you're going to kind of make some shit up to kind of make yourself part of it. So I'm not really sure if Chrisman seen anything, but he says he did. But I just think it's odd that the craft would still be over there after, a lot of time has passed. I don't know how much time has passed, but it almost makes me feel like if this was one isolated incident, why would the craft come back to the same spot?
Yeah. And it might just be, a fake whistleblower. Like anything you look up UFO or alien related, you will find Richard Doherty's name everywhere. Yeah. I mean, everywhere. And this guy, and I know it's not really so much as a close knit group, but people in this community, in this field of research or whatever you want to call it, this hobby of conspiracies, it's all basically, you got the main players, and then you got the substandard players, you got the two dudes doing a podcast about aliens standards.
Yeah, like but if we said we saw something, people wouldn't take it serious.
No, I mean, in this day and age, because we talked about this previously in our episode, but the evidence based is just not there. I mean, personally, I have a phone with like 4 or 5 cameras on it, but we can't get a clear shot of a UFO.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all just skeptic at this point. I mean, proven cases.
I don't feel like nowadays. I don't feel like people are really looking in the skies as much as they were back then. We have way too much shit to play with now with technology and iPhones and all that. We're not looking up to the sky as much as we used to.
Well, that too, and I will agree with that because that is a very good point. But also, it's been around since the 40s. Even longer than that. You look at ancient aliens and pyramids and Egypt and Aztecs and even
which
I'm
we'll
sure
eventually do in Ancient Aliens. We'll eventually,
eventually, yeah.
And but that's going to be a really fun one too. But
yeah, this has spanned at least the dawn of time since we've known it. So it's kind of I won't say it's died out because it hasn't by any means, but just some people don't care. They're like, oh, UFOs, we've heard about that before.
Yeah. Let's get back on the Maury Island incident real quick.
Yeah, let's get it. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. What actually happened to Mr. Dahl? Like, what Men in Black experience did he have, Trey?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hang on, you put me on the spot. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
No, you go ahead. You finish your story because I've done went over that page.
Very good. Basically, he had the same kind of experiences like most people have with Men in Black. That just a Men in Black had came and told him basically you need to watch what you're doing. You can't tell anybody. All this other stuff. And then apparently the picture or whatever that he had taken, the footage, was corrupted. So like the cell was all messed up, and yeah, so he didn't really. The picture wasn't really good or anything like that. Yeah,
like you said, it was tampered with. It was blurred.
Yeah, but he had described the Men in Black as basically the same as most people do, and basically just said, "Hey, if you do anything or say anything, then you're gonna be in some deep shit." His son, it's actually important. Charles was, after the incident had happened, this just like fled town and went to like work at a diner, just out of the blue, which I thought was kind of odd. And they were looking for his son, and he didn't even know where his son was. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I think he's working somewhere a few towns over. So he like fled the town, just packed all his shit up, got out, was like, I'm not coming back. And then like they found him working at a diner like hundreds of miles away.
Probably scared for his life, honestly.
Yeah, and these kind of encounters, like you see people, like I wouldn't want to live in a fucking town where UFOs are coming over. And then it's also said that like some debris had shot down into the water and overhead of them. So you don't really see a whole lot of UFOs like leaving stuff behind. So I thought that was interesting too. And then the Men in Black were actually pretty interested in that as well, but he had not had any like evidence of that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the Maury Island incident. It's actually kind of interesting. We probably could have went more into detail of it, but we don't have enough time to go into complete detail of all these. I do have another one that I want to talk about. Have you heard of the Solway Firth spaceman photo?
Is that the little girl with the dude behind her head?
Yeah, you want to talk it?
Yeah, I seen the picture. Yeah, I didn't actually put it down in my notes, but I did see it, and I'm like, that is creepy.
Yeah, so basically in 1964, Jim Templeton was shocked to discover that he had taken a picture of his daughter, and right behind her in the picture, it looks like an astronaut, like a spaceman.
The actual photo. You can go look up this photo.
Well, the photo's right here.
There you go.
It's on the screen. So basically,
for people who can't see it, it's literally a old timey photo. A girl in a flowery dress in a field, just smiling. And honestly, besides an astronaut, it looks like a fencer. Those suits you wear when you fence. It looks like a guy just sticking out of her head. Like,
that, or like just maybe like it looks kind of like maybe like a hazmat suit. It's just all white, or it's like if you think of like what a beekeeper would wear.
Yep. Okay.
Kind of looks like that. It's weird though. I was kind of looking at the picture to try to like debunk it. And I was thinking maybe they put like a action figure or something behind her, but I was thinking like you would have to see somebody holding it up, or like you would see something. So the figure, it just looks like somebody standing behind of her. I don't know if it's someone in a costume or what, but it looks like from a distance like an astronaut.
Yep. And even so, if somebody was standing behind her, you would think the direction of the sun would cast a shadow, or even so, you can see her shadow right by her left arm down there. It's obviously the sun is in front of her or beside her to the right. You would see if that man was that tall standing behind her, or if he was standing behind her at all, you would think he would cast a shadow.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. There's no shadow whatsoever of this spaceman. And this was 1964, so as far as like, space is concerned, like, when did we land on the moon? Was it in the 60s?
69. July of 69.
To be like a astronaut 5 years prior to whenever it was like a really big deal, to just kind of stand back there, it's just weird, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think
And
that like an astronaut suit would be readily available to people at that point, even as like a Halloween costume or anything, because this was like 5 years before Sputnik and Apollo and the moon landing and all that. It just
no,
doesn't.
I think Sputnik went up in the 50s.
Oh, it did. Sputnik
But
was the
yeah,
50s. Okay,
yeah,
well then,
Sputnik was the first actual little satellite up in space.
gotcha. Okay, yeah. Okay, so but as far as astronauts go, I don't feel like that an astronaut, even if it was like a
Oh,
costume, I
definitely
don't think it would
not.
be
No.
readily available.
No,
Um,
not readily available. I mean, they were just getting ready to go to the moon. So who knows if even astronaut suits were even made by that time.
yeah. Well, Templeton had taken this photo, and he had like experts look at it, and the film was actually verified as authentic by
Yep.
Kodak. So it's like a
Hmm.
real photo that's not altered in any way. Like that doesn't mean it's real. Like we said, by debunking it, you can say there's somebody standing in the background or an optical illusion, maybe. But it is a real picture. It's not altered in any way. A little bit after that, he was visited by two government agents who refer to themselves as Number 9 and Number 10.
Number 10. Yep.
Yep. I'm Number 9.
I guess I'm 10 then.
You're 10. They demanded to see the side of the photo and questioned Templeton about the event. When Templeton told them that he didn't see the figure personally, the men became angry and basically stormed out of the field, never to be seen again. Templeton was later contacted by two employees at a missile launch pad in Australia who claimed that they saw two figures that resembled the man and his daughter's photo on launch pad security footage. Apparently, the missiles at that site in Australia had been produced only 20 miles away from the field where Templeton took the photo.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, and this, just looking at this, it makes me think of time travel.
I mean, that's the only logical explanation. Either time travel or somehow they are this ungodly deity that can open up a rip in time and just walk through it.
Which is just nuts just to think about stuff like
Yeah,
that.
just to think about it. You think just somebody just and then there's 500 years in the future.
And what about, because I always was told like pictures kind of like open up like this. People say pictures could open up like this. I don't know, like this universe or this parallel dimension or parallel universe that like things can come out like through images, I guess.
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you were sitting there like taking that picture and you didn't even see that at all, but yet it showed up in the picture.
Hmm. I mean, that's
So
kind of goes along with the superstition. Like, let's just say Halloween. It started All Hallows Eve with Sam Hain. The veil between the afterlife and our world is so very thin. Say the witching hour at 3 a.m. All these suspicions and skeptics, may hold actual truth to them. But then again, like we discussed just earlier, throughout the years, it could be misinterpreted or muddied, and then just end up a completely whole different story.
yeah,
Let's say somehow back then for jack-o'-lanterns they used like squashes or something smaller than pumpkins we have now. But over the years, we've adapted to a jack-o'-lantern.
hmm
So
yeah.
I mean,
So I
it's
mean,
just
so what's your take on this? What do you think it is?
I have no idea, honestly, what I'm looking at.
Because I've
Like
seen
you
where
said,
people can debunk it, but I don't like think it's like just easily explained.
debunkable, honestly.
Well, the
Now,
ongoing like the thing is like they're saying that that's his like wife or something standing back, like standing away from the
they don't look
camera.
nothing like a wife would look back
Yeah.
then.
Well, apparently she's
Uh,
like wearing a dress and she's kind of like looking away from the camera, and it's kind of blurry, so that's what gives it the illusion.
they're still, from my perspective, they're still wearing something on their head. That's
Yeah.
not hair that I could tell, unless it's a
Unless it's
very
maybe like in
elder.
a bun. If it's in a bun, maybe.
If it's in a
Maybe.
bun and a very elderly person with silver gray hair,
Hmm.
then maybe, like you said, maybe, yeah. But I'm still not convinced because there's no shadow. If you look at the picture to your left, With you actually see the little girl.
Mm.
If you look up at the top right corner, it looks like a tail of something. Now, maybe you could say that's a kite. Someone's flying a kite right there.
It almost looks like
Okay, still,
birds.
I don't know. Yeah, it's something, but
And it
that
almost
to
looks
me,
like
you
it's like
can't.
buttons, that there's like buttons on like the shirt or the whatever, the suit, maybe the spacesuit. I don't know.
I have no idea. I have no idea. It looks like a suit of some kind, but it does
Yeah.
not look like a person. I mean,
Well, it looks like a
any
humanoid. It doesn't
it,
just look like
yeah,
a
yeah,
regular person.
yeah, a
But,
regular person. Yeah, that's a better term there.
but yeah, I would suggest if you want to like see it for yourself and kind of give your own explanation of it, it's the Solway Spaceman, and it's very
Soulway
famous.
spaceman.
Yeah, it's very famous. I've seen it in a lot of UFO stuff.
So
Um,
maybe actually, because I got another encounter right here, but
okay.
maybe what if this? Because Men in Black apparently, in all these accounts that I've read, they take on the form of either a humanoid or military personnel, someone, your friend or neighbor you possibly could not know is being took over. If that's what they did, but somehow they had a very well laid out chart of your personal life already out, like know everything about you. Um, and that's just weird too, because why go through so much trouble to learn about this person if all you're going to do is threaten them and be like, hey, don't continue working on this.
Well,
Don't
you need to know.
speak.
Typically, in these Men in Black scenarios, you see them threatening them, like threatening their family, like you know. So these Men in Black, they need to know a lot about these individuals to be able to, if they were to like not shut up or give them a hard time, they have easy access to their friends and family, um,
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff
true.
like that
Okay.
too. So
That's true. I don't have a mind of like a criminal or a super villain, like, hey, let's go after your loved ones. But I can definitely see that, which
yeah.
I didn't even think about. But um,
Um,
okay, let's get to this another other one that I
okay.
have. So like we talked about, they take on different personas to try to get closer to you, just to get their way. So this comes from the U.S. Air Force. Uh, no, I'm sorry, it didn't come from the U.S. Air Force, but still the same website. But the U.S. Air Force took them. Uh, God bless. Hang on, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, so this is account with the U.S. Air Force for one Colonel George P. Freeman to tell paranormal investigators John Keel this bit of information. So, mysterious men, sometimes dressed in Air Force uniforms or bearing impressive credentials from government agencies, have been silencing UFO witnesses. We have checked a number of these cases, and the men are not connected with the Air Force in any way. We have not been able to find out anything further about these men. So, this is just one instance where they just vanish, poof, away. Another one instance is in 67. The target was Robert Richardson of Toledo, a member of the respected Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, or APRO, who had a mysterious UFO encounter himself. One night, Richardson was driving at the bend of a road and found a strange looking object but could not avoid hitting it. Interestingly enough, this dude done wrecked into a UFO.
What?
So, yeah, as he hit the object, the UFO disappeared without a sound or impact. Richardson stepped out of his car looking for the evidence and found a small lump of what looked like a melted metal where he kept as possible evidence. He told about this incident only to his wife and a couple of close APRO associates. Three
That's where
days
he fucked
later,
up. He shouldn't have told any of those
yeah,
associates.
he shouldn't have. He shouldn't have done anything. He acted like he
Yeah.
never even hit a fucking UFO. So 3 days later, two young men driving a black 1953 Cadillac visited Richardson. However, they seemed normal and did not ask for anything.
Hmm.
Richardson noted the license plate on the Cadillac and discovered that there was no car registered to said number.
What? Wow.
So this goes back. The main word I take from this is two young men. So there was no encounter of palish skin. They had hair, I'm assuming. They had normal colored lips all on them, but
Yeah, I mean they always they're always a little different. Their descriptions and stuff. I always think it's weird too that these men in black are like basically living in the 40s and 50s. They're always in like these old ass cars. They're always in like these like black suits,
that's the thing.
top hats.
That's the thing. What better time than the 40s, 50s, all the way up to the 60s, where all the men wore suits?
No, but like even like in these newer cases, which we'll get into one with Dan Aykroyd here in a minute. Which I have. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But even in that case, they were in like this Oldsmobile with like this black suit and top hat, and but yeah, it's weird to me. It feels like if these were, and we'll theorize towards the end of what I think these men in black could possibly be. It almost makes sense where that they would like try to be as generic as possible.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that too, because one line from the movie, once Will Smith gets into his Jay character, he's like, they go out and get into their car. He's like, unlimited technology in the universe. You drive around in a Ford POS.
Yeah.
And then
that you can't like, you're trying to like stay undercover. So what better way to do that than to be very average, do average things and
blend in, man. But I mean, I don't know, 1997 when Men in Black came out. I don't know what year the Ford was, but that would have been so off centered, from reality. You see vintage cars on the road today, you're like, well, that's that person's hobby, or they're going to a road show, to show off their old timey car.
Yeah.
But someone driving around in a 53 Cadillac today, just on a whim, in black suits, I'd be like, there's something fucking sketchy about that right there.
It almost makes me think that, like, do you think these Men in Black updated and now they're like in fucking joggers and tank tops with their guns out, and they're in these like a Ford Focus or some shit?
Ford Focus,
like a 2018 Ford Focus.
I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't think they'd stoop that low to just a tank top and joggers, but maybe like style it up a bit. You get like a Gucci suit or a Louis Vuitton go in.
A Gucci suit,
maybe. Yeah, maybe.
That's funny. But yeah, I mean these, this is crazy. I did want to talk about the Dan Aykroyd thing back in like I think it was 2002.
Yeah, you were right. Yep.
Dan Aykroyd had an encounter with the Men in Black as well, and you're thinking, do the Men in Black have any? Do they even stand a chance against a Ghostbuster?
No,
and
I wouldn't think
the answer is no, but in this situation they do. Basically, Dan Aykroyd was doing this UFO show that he had pitched to Sci-Fi. And it was like going to be like 20-something episodes, or at least up until then they had done like 20-something episodes.
Yeah, it was a TV show, yep.
And Dan Aykroyd's like a huge UFO guy. Like he considers himself like a ufologist. I don't know if you guys know about that, like that vodka that he had, where it was like a crystal skull vodka. It almost looked like an alien head. It was pretty cool.
I didn't even know he had that brand.
Yeah, it's like Crystal Skull Vodka or something like that. He tries to sell it all the time. I don't know what it tastes like, but anyways, he's a big UFO guy. He was making a UFO show, and he goes outside to take a phone call from Britney Spears, which I thought was odd. Yeah, no, dead serious. He was like going to do something on SNL, and Britney Spears wanted to do it. And in 2002, I guess that's kind of like a big deal, because it's Britney, bitch. But anyways, he went outside to talk to Britney Spears, and he had seen right across the street just a man looking at him, basically like your typical Men in Black, just stared at him. Dan Aykroyd just kind of like just sitting there like, oh my god, what's going on? And then like some cars pass, and he like looks away for a second and then looks back, and the man's gone. Almost just your typical what you think like in a movie, like cars pass and like the person's gone, and you're like, oh my god. basically. So
Where'd he go?
maybe that's where it started, and then now we start seeing it in movies. Maybe Dan Aykroyd, his experience is what all these movies are doing now.
I mean, it just, how do you even explain that? I mean, and this from Dan Aykroyd, a living person to this day, 2002. I mean, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah,
But
and you got to think 2002. Like now, like the UFO community, it's starting to get to the point where that like you're not seen as crazy. And then, but back then, it's not as bad as like maybe like the 50s and 60s, but like back then, people still thought, like UFOs, that's just crazy talk.
yeah,
And then you're Dan Aykroyd. Why you have so much to lose? Why would you even mention anything like that?
I mean, probably because he actually saw this and he wanted somebody to be like, I saw this shit. Like, I'm not making this up. But how,
Funny
like
enough,
you said, like you said, man, it's not really depicted as crazy anymore. But 20 years ago, even back in the 40s, 50s, you were literally dubbed like psychotic or crazy. Like, no, that's impossible.
yeah,
But in 2002, that's enter the 20th century, man, 21st
yeah,
century.
and that's very early post 9/11, so everybody's already kind of like on the
Freaking out.
edge.
Yeah,
But the encounter happened, but I guess the biggest thing about this story is that the producer then within hours, like 2 hours had passed, informed Dan Aykroyd that all the footage, all the stuff that they had done, all the episodes, that it would not air, and that Sci-Fi was cutting the deal.
yep,
So
canceled.
you've got Dan Aykroyd seeing a Man in Black, and then hours later, his UFO show was canceled
Yep.
and never saw the light of day.
And that you cannot tell me, like, he was sitting there thinking like, this is no coincidence, man. Like, I saw that person, and now all of a sudden the show that I'm doing research on is canceled. Like,
It's like I
I
synced
would
it.
be, oh my god, I would be diving so deep into. Sorry, I would be
There you go.
diving so deep as to what the fuck just happened. Like, that is no coincidence whatsoever.
Yeah. And then, like, I mean, I'm sure when it happened, he was like, these are related. These are correlated somehow. It blows my mind. And just weird. It just, like, it almost makes you feel like these Men in Black don't even give a fuck who you are. Like,
No,
Dan Aykroyd
dude.
could have an
Why,
experience.
why would they? I mean, they're
Yeah.
sitting here threatening a dude to make his heart disappear to another fucking dimension. They ain't gonna care if he's Dan Aykroyd or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got a job to do, and they will see it through.
Yep. Do you have any other encounters?
Yeah, I was just one from not really an encounter, but it's kind of like I would say like a warning, maybe.
Ooh, I like this already.
Yeah, you can take it however you want to, but so in another case, John Keel encountered Men in Black while investigating the Mothman case.
Ooh, Mothman's
So,
that's really interesting.
Yeah. So John feels that UFOs, sorry, Men in Black, ghosts, and all sort of paranormal phenomenon are all linked to some sort of extra dimensional force. He believes that the Men in Black do not come from outer space, and they have always been here on Earth alongside mankind, working on the mysterious projects and helping to keep humans in the dark. And this was his quote: "The mysterious Men in Black and the entire collection of their thugs, henchmen, and highly trained intelligence officers are a big part of the complex UFO phenomenon, which is in turn part of another big and complex phenomenon. It is known that projects by them are now underway for complete control of political, religious, scientific institutions. They, the MIB, have a very long background and history that stretches back for centuries." So that begs the question: if these dudes are doing a job, who is their boss?
Yeah. It almost
It's
makes
not
me
Rip
think
Torn.
like
It's not Rip Torn. I'll tell you that.
yeah. So to kind of theorize, I guess to really theorize this whole Men in Black phenomenon, I personally believe that these are not people, that these are aliens.
I
That
mean,
these could possibly be like alien, dressing up. You got to think. You think of like the robotic voice. You think of the way that they act. It's almost like it's a pre-planned thing. They could either be aliens, or for me, they could even be AI robots.
Could be AI or what? Think about
Or
this.
mind control.
So, mind control. Yeah. So,
Is that what you're going to say?
A person? It was. I was leaning into it.
Okay,
What if they
yeah.
were a person at one point in time, and they suddenly got kidnapped or abducted, and then they're like, "All right, we need agents on the ground. Like, you're now number 76. You're number 69. Like, get to
No,
work."
they're sleeping at night, and then some guy like comes over there in a trench coat and says, "You can take the red pill, or you can take the blue pill." And then they're like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna be a Men in Black. That's a nice suit." And they're like, "All right,
But
let's
what
go."
if it, like you said, okay, so we have no idea who the Men in Black are. Like, if they're interdimensional beings, time travelers, aliens, robots, they were put here to do a job, and that is to keep quiet about UFOs, alien life, all this. So it kind of begs the question, like, why?
Yeah,
Why
like
do all
if
this?
it almost makes me feel like if the government really wanted to cover shit up, they wouldn't even go through all this. Like, why even go, like, all these accounts and stuff? You understand everything that we said, these stories that's happened, obviously, they've told people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these stories of the Men in Black.
Yep.
So why would you go out of your way to prove the existence? Because by you trying to control it and say, no, you didn't see anything, that makes people believe, at least in my opinion, like, I did see something, and there's a reason you're here. Why are you here if I didn't see anything? If I really didn't see a UFO, if I really didn't see some shady, crazy shit, or get abducted, why are you here?
I mean, that's the question. I mean, that's why are they there? Why are we here? Why are aliens there? I mean, it's a handful of questions, but for the Men in Black, I just want to know, like, who's pulling the strings. Is it the Illuminati, the reptilian subterranean colony underneath our feet? The just who's in control? Who's in charge of them?
A lot of people actually, and this kind of goes with what I was thinking too, and like a lot of accounts of the Men in Black, people believe that they're above military, that they're federal agents, but they're even above the military. That a lot of military personnel.
You would have to be to do the instances like we discussed, or any other research that our viewers or listeners are going to do after this. You have to be over a control group of people, such as military, even the president, to do these kind of things.
And I know we're going to get like people, sending us messages and commenting, asking us about the Niagara Falls Men in Black experience with the video. Have you seen that one? It's like the only known video of actual Men in Black at like a hotel.
Is it the two walking in?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I watched that earlier. Yep.
Yeah, we've seen the video. I just feel like that one's been beat to death. Kind of wanted to do a couple stories that people, or encounters that people might have not known about. So we're aware of that one. We just kind of we're just going to brush over it a little bit. We know it happened. But you can just look up a video on that one. It's interesting, but like I said,
now, a lot of people are like, oh, they're just businessmen. Like, who just dresses like that for business anymore?
Who shaves every ounce of their hair and then makes coins disappear? Yeah,
and eyebrows.
You see this coin? No, they're like using magic. They're like, hey, it's behind your ear. Yeah.
And that's where magicians come from. They're like,
Men in Black.
Men in Black cause magicians.
Yeah, they're only magicians.
We've been on this episode for, I don't know, over half an hour now, but we have vaguely discussed the actual movies of Men in Black.
Yeah. Well, we've been recording 55 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Again, I'll reiterate this. I'm pretty sure I said this in the first episode, but I think for the Men in Black to even exist, to try to clear the cross space of conspiracies or UFO sightings, and this really why I think the government is stalling, because we know they have information on aliens and UFOs. They'll say all day They won't. But who really trusts the government in this time and day in
Not very many.
2021?
Not many at all.
So Will Smith asked Tommy Lee Jones, like, why cover it up? People are smart. Tommy Lee Jones rebuttals. He said, a person is smart, but people are dumb, panicky animals, and you know it.
Yep.
It's the hysteria. It's the
The
pandemonium.
mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria on ungodly proportions. I mean, that's one quote I'll never forget from that movie, but it syncs so well with today and the people in today's society all around the world. If the government really came out and said, we've been hiding aliens for years, here's UFOs. If they bought a giant Smithsonian museum full of aliens and alien, UFOs or ray guns or
Alien technology and aliens.
yeah, technology, even a fucking space lunchable, people would freak out, man.
Yeah, I want to try the space.
It would just
Lunchable.
chaos.
Yeah.
The Tutti
We already
Frutti
know there's
Galactic
Italian
shooter.
restaurants in space.
Yeah.
From
Italian.
last episode. But yeah, Men in Black. It's some crazy stuff, man. You know?
I will agree with you before you even say it. I believe they are time travelers.
That makes more sense to me.
It does.
You know?
And coming from this perspective of a time traveler,
Wait,
it could be
you're a
anywhere.
time traveler?
No. From
You heard
this
it here first,
perspective,
guys.
No, from the
Trey is a
perspective
time traveler.
of us saying that they're time travelers, that would explain, like, say, the plastic skin, the monotoned, the speaking straight out of, like, they just read a dictionary. Either they come from the past or from the future, where they don't need English anymore. They don't need hair anymore. They don't need a tan or dark skin to adapt to the sun or the environment. They're just pigmented white crayons.
Here's
And
my
they're
theory.
like, oh, okay.
You can go ahead. Sorry, you had anything else to say?
No. I
just wanted to say it while it
mumbling.
was fresh on my head. I just thought of this. It might blow
Okay.
your mind.
All right.
So the gray aliens that we know are
Evens.
time travelers from the future. That's what humans look like in the future. They're using these UFOs as time traveling to come back to these certain events to warn us of certain demises. Every single time that they get caught in these like UFOs and stuff, they're like, "Oh shit! Well, we got to go tell them you didn't see anything. Don't spread all this shit because you're gonna fuck up with the time." If you tell people all this stuff's gonna happen, then it's gonna fuck with our
Fucking butterfly effect.
Yes. So these gray aliens are putting these human suits on and going around telling people to shut the fuck up.
You solved it.
And
dude.
that's what
That's it.
Men in Black are.
That's it, dude. Men in Black.
They're aliens in
That
disguise.
probably makes the most sense out of anything we discussed. I mean, yeah, we could say they're AIs,
I love
but
how you said that
back
it makes sense. Time traveling aliens that put on flesh suits.
it makes sense. It makes sense, man. Because so what's the other alternative we discussed? The AIs.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, sure. We have AIs now in these days, but place them all the way back in '76. Like
Yeah.
what's the point?
47. The first one's 47.
In 47, yeah, that too.
That we know
Like,
of.
okay, I say what's the point, but y'all are gonna come at me like, well, it's the point because nobody knows what a fucking AI is in 47. That is true, but I mean that
If they're time travelers, then they know.
Yeah.
Because they're way ahead of us.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know what this world is anymore. I mean, we got
Yeah.
time traveling aliens coming back to warn us.
It
I
could
don't
be.
know. It's enough to scratch your head, man. I'll give you that. But
Yeah. No, like I don't know. It just it almost makes me feel like that maybe it had happened before 47. Just people weren't saying anything about it. You gotta think if people are scared enough for their life and their family, they're not gonna say shit about shit.
no, dude, no, especially, man. I mean, if some dude came up to me and said, "Yo, I'm gonna make your heart disappear to an old fucking dimension," I'd be so gone so fast, dude. I don't even know where I'd go. I mean, obviously nowhere is safe because they can time travel.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you have any other Men in Black?
Other than
Encounters?
the neuralizer, we didn't really go into the neuralizer.
The Neuralizer.
Yeah, the neuralizer, the Men in Black use.
Oh, wait.
The
I think you have one, don't
flashy
you?
thing. Yeah, I do. So,
Well, don't.
there we go.
Oh, wow.
Thank you
All right,
for
thanks.
participating in our drill. This has been an actual podcast.
What are you talking? We haven't even started recording yet. I just got here.
You just got
Thank
here?
you, guys. This is Probably Aliens Podcast, Men in Black, episode 4.
Episode 4. Thank you
No, I was
again
gonna-
for 500 views. It's incredible, honestly.
Redo everything we already said.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna joke around with Men in Black, and I thought about texting you and being like, "Hey, so like the first 10 minutes of this podcast, we're just gonna talk about the movie and act like that's all we're gonna talk about, and then we're gonna be like, nah, we're gonna go and talk about the actual stuff." But I was like, no, I haven't seen the movie, recently, and I wouldn't really. But I was
Yeah, they took it
literally
off
gonna
Star.
start it
They
off.
took it
be
off
like,
Showtime or wherever it was. You gotta rent it now. It's some dumb shit.
I think it
can't
might be on
watch it
Hulu.
anymore.
I don't know. But I was actually going to be
No.
like, so, Trey, who is the Men in Black? Or what is the Men in Black? And you're going to say, The Men in Black was a movie from 1997 with Will Smith and
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones. And
Now, while we're talking about the movies, just for a minute, we'll wrap this up. But the third one actually deals with time travel.
I haven't even seen the third one. That was like a newer one,
I've
right?
seen, like
2011 or something?
bits and pieces, but it does deal with time travel, going back to Kay's origin days as a MIB agent. So maybe they're trying to tell us something.
Yeah. I mean, they always say
I'm
that,
sure.
like, Hollywood might know some shit and they put all this shit in their movies. Have you heard of, like,
It
just
is-
really quick, have you heard of the Stanley Kubrick thing with the moon landing?
No, what? Please
so
elaborate.
Stanley Kubrick, who's this is just because you mentioned the movie and like trying to tell us stuff through a movie. He was actually supposedly people think that he helped fake the moon landing, and he felt
Really?
so bad about it that he puts Easter eggs in all his movies, like The Shining, like the kids
Mm-hmm.
wearing like an Apollo, like space shirt. And he like puts Easter eggs
Wow.
in all his movies because he feels so bad about faking the moon landing.
Wow.
It was like a space race, and they wanted to get there before anybody else did.
Yeah.
So-
That's
the
one
moon
we'll
landing-
probably have to cover sooner
Yeah.
or later. Is the
We'll
moon
definitely
landing.
discuss the moon landing.
Yeah.
I think the next one we've talked about it. Are you, you want to tell people what we're going to talk about, or do you want to?
So anyone who's listening or watching, just be prepared. Next episode will be about 9/11.
Yes,
Figure it's a 20 year anniversary.
it is.
We were there watching it. We got people.
We
in our
weren't there.
age
We
who
were watching
there.
it. I was in school, I think.
Yeah, I was in school, Jesse Story Elementary, but I remember that day. I remember 10 years later, and now we remember 20 years later.
Yeah.
So we, of course, will be unfiltered. So if you feel like this is one that you want to sit out, we completely understand. Because
It's
we
a touchy
will be going,
subject. It really
it
is.
is a touchy subject, but there is quite a lot of evidence suggesting it is a conspiracy. If
The
you
rabbit
didn't
hole
already
runs
know.
deep with 9/11.
It
Let's
runs
just say
so
that.
deep.
Very deep. That could
So just-
easily be a 3-parter.
Yeah, it could go on forever. I mean, and over the course of 20 years, there's a lot built up to it. So, spoiler alert, we're doing 9/11 just because 20th anniversary is coming up. Not anniversary, that sounds so bad.
That sounds bad, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
It's been 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
That'll be our first episode that's not alien related. Or is it?
I don't know. It's a conspiracy for sure. but-
It wouldn't fucking surprise me if somebody had some alien, 9/11 conspiracy out there. I'm going to look deep.
Look
Deep.
deep. So,
And
documentary
discuss-
is all this.
We'll discuss like the, popular conspiracies around 9/11, but I'm really going to dig deep to try to find some crazy shit that makes sense.
Yep. Well, of course, we'll go over what everybody, especially conspiracists, already know, and we'll get more into that. So, like I said, spoiler alert, 9/11 next episode. Feel free to set out if it's a touchy subject, which it is, but we're just going to go ahead and reveal it now.
Yeah, that'll probably be out in a few weeks. Let me see what. Yeah, well, it'll be out sometime in September.
Yep.
But final thoughts on Men in Black.
Time traveling aliens.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way too.
It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Makes sense, yeah. All right, so I think that's it for this week, guys. Like I said, you can follow us on Facebook at John Wick's Podcast, or
Twitter at Podcast Aliens.
Yep. And thank you guys for all the streams. Again, we really appreciate that.
Yes, very big for two dudes just doing this out of fun, you know?
Yeah. It was very fun. But yeah, that's it, guys. We will see you guys next time, like we said. This will be on 9/11, and it'll be out sometime in September.
Yep.
So, anything
Thank
you want
you
to add,
guys.
Trey?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time. My name is Jordan.
My name is Trey.
And we'll see you.